It's time to pick a side. The Border War is on the air with BG and TanMan. All right, true believers, welcome into the Border War for January the 31st. Thank you for tuning in this week. We will be doing two segments as we are now accustomed to doing. In segment one, we'll be talking about this week's big game, the Super Bowl.
I don't think you can call it the Super Bowl. I think it has to be called the big game now.
The big game? Just the big game. And some activity, especially here with the Redskins in the past days. So we'll be talking about that in hour number one. But before we get started, we want to remind you that you can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. You can follow me at BG_Border War. And you can follow TanMan at TanMan3264. Email us at CarolinaBorderWar@gmail.com. And like and download us through the Spreaker app, Spreaker. So if you're listening to us from a shared link on your computer and you'd rather listen on your mobile phone, that's the way to do it. Once you're on there, you just search for the Border War and it pops right up. Easy to find, easy to share, easy to download, and also like and share us on Facebook. Well, like I mentioned, TanMan, this week we have the big game coming up between the Eagles. And should I share the meme that I showed you? Should I? It was on the Daily Show, I think. Trevor Noah said this is the most American Super Bowl we've ever had. The Eagles taking on the Patriots. The only way it could be more American is if they slaughtered the Redskins before the game started. I don't think that should be funny, but it is anyway. I don't know. The Redskins don't need any help slaughtering anyone or being slaughtered. They can handle that all on their own.
The future London silly nannies.
That's ridiculous. Catch us up in the week in sport, big guy.
Well, you mentioned the big game. Last week there was a little game called the NFL Pro Bowl. The AFC knocked off the NFC 24-23.
I literally forgot it was on.
A lot of people. I actually watched about a quarter of it. It was
predictably unentertaining.
Well, no, it was entertaining enough.
Yeah, okay.
It was entertaining enough. But they overcome a 20-3 halftime deficit. Delaney Walker, 2 touchdowns, including the game winner with about a minute or so to go. They win, like we said, 24-23. If you just climbed out of bed or crawled out from under the rock, you haven't seen it yet. The Redskins have finally preemptively ended the Kirk Cousins drama. They trade a third-round pick and promising young cornerback Kendall Fuller to the Chiefs for quarterback Alex Smith, and we'll get into some more of that here in a few minutes. But the top 4 in the latest AP poll this week, they remain the same. Villanova, Virginia, Purdue, and Duke, with Michigan State jumping up to number 5. The Tar Heels fall to number 19 after losing their second in a row to NC State, 95-91 in overtime. They followed that up with a third loss in a row. Unfortunately, last night down in Littlejohn to the Tigers of Clemson, 82-78. They will get a get-well game this Saturday as winless in the ACC Pitt comes to town. So hopefully they can get back on track. If they can't, then it's time to pack up the shop and close it down if you can't beat Pitt. The Tigers, like we said, they come in at number 20 this week. They get a 72-70 win over Georgia Tech, and plus the win over North Carolina. So they will be coming up from that 20 spot. They will get Wake Forest on Saturday afternoon. Your Gamecocks, BG, if you said before the last couple weeks, you get 4 ranked teams in a row and you'll go 2-2.
Oh, yeah.
You take it.
You take that all day long.
But they get a 77-72 win at Florida before they fall at home to another ranked team, Texas Tech, 70-63. A tough week ahead. They'll get Mississippi State tonight, a better-than-expected Bulldogs team from Starkville, before heading out to Texas A&M on Saturday and Arkansas on Tuesday. So a tough week coming up ahead for the Gamecocks if they want to make some hay for the tournament. In NBA action, the Charlotte Hornets go 1-3. They knock off the Hawks, but they've dropped games to the Pelicans, the Heat, and the Pacers.
How many times have we, or have you in the Week in Sports, said that the Hornets go 1-3 this
Every
week?
man, it wanted to.
Broken record, yeah.
Yep, but they will get the Hawks again tonight. They'll come home to play one game against the Pacers on Friday before going back out west. They'll play at Phoenix on Sunday and at Denver on Monday. And finally, in the golfing world, Tiger Woods returned to the, like we said, he returned to the PGA Tour. He finishes with a 3-under, tied for 23 his rounds. He shoots 72, 71, 70, 72. So it's his first made cut in about 2 years. So all in all, a pretty good weekend for Tiger. But the winner, Jason Day, he wins the Farmers Insurance Open on the 6th playoff hole. And what's interesting about that is the first 5 were played Sunday afternoon. They suspended play for darkness, didn't let fans back in, so they come back and play one hole. It takes like 17 minutes, and he wins the tournament with no fans in the stands.
I bet that was a really creepy feeling and odd, just weird.
Yeah, poor planning on the PGA Tour's part. But BG, that's your week in sport. So there's nothing else to talk about, right? Nothing else has happened. Nothing's going on.
Well, contrary to that, there's actually a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
We've got the big game coming. You're just in a bad mood.
I am. I'm kind of grumpy. I'm not going to lie to you.
We're not going to talk about college basketball in this segment, though. So you can. Of course, the playoffs didn't feature the Cowboys, so you can be grumpy about that.
Okay, I'm grumpy about everything.
Shift your grumpiness to the Cowboys for a minute.
All right.
We're going to talk about them, but before we get started, let's start with the Super Bowl. What number are we on now? 50-something?
52, I think.
52. Okay.
The big game, 52.
The big game, 52. So everybody knows, and we're going to do our prediction score here in a minute, but the real question that we want to start off talking about is there's been all this sort of drama with Brady and Belichick and the Patriots, and it's sort of died off in the past couple of weeks. I haven't seen as much about it, but
winning cures everything. Winning will cure a lot of ails.
Well, it's not like they were losing, but when it came up, they immediately started winning, and I think it came up the week before they played their first playoff game.
I think so.
That's when we talked about it. They had that bye week, so obviously they're back in the Super Bowl. So regardless of the fact of whether we think they're going to win or whether the Eagles are going to win, we're going to talk about that here in a second. But do you think that Brady and Belichick as Patriots are in their last Super Bowl together?
That's hard to say. In my head, I would say no, because I've made it a point that I'm not going to bet against Tom Brady or Bill Belichick for that matter. But when you start looking, I told a buddy last night, I said, just think of it. All the Super Bowls they've won, they went about a 10-year stretch without winning one. And in between there, after they won their first 3 Super Bowls, they turned around, they replaced Charlie Weiss and they replaced Romeo Crennel. And they went 10 years without winning. Well, they're getting ready to replace Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia this year.
Right.
I say yes. I say this is it. I think this is it.
I thought you were going to say no, and I was sort of looking forward to disagreeing with you, but I'm with you, man. I think this is it.
I think this is it.
And people keep throwing Tom Brady up there, and Tom Brady very well might turn around Sunday night and have the best game of his career. Don't get me wrong. But it is going to end.
Yeah.
And, if he plays 3 more seasons, you have to think, well, let's just say this. Tom Brady's last season, whenever it is, unless it's right now, which it's probably not.
Probably not.
His last season is going to be like Joe Montana in Kansas City. He is going to fall off a little. He's not going – it's bound to happen. And when you look at the Patriots roster, to be honest with you, TanMan, it's still surprising to me that they're playing at the level they are anyway. When you look at their skill position players and you look at their offensive and their defensive line and their defense in general, you start to realize where Brady and Belichick get this reputation from, because it really is, it's them.
You're
it's
right.
them, and there isn't anyone else. Up there that is consistently contributing to these wins. It's just them, and
I just think when you look out in the landscape, Super Bowls are so hard to get to.
Mm-hmm.
You guys haven't been to one in, 26 years now or something like that? January 26, 1992.
Yeah.
We haven't been to one in about 20 or so years. They're hard to get to. And the fact that they've been to so many of them over these years, I think this is number 8?
Yes.
This will be number 8 for this group. And then you just look around the landscape of the AFC. You've got some young and up and coming teams. I know Oakland didn't live up to expectations, but there are a lot of factors contributed to that.
Oakland's definitely a team to keep your eye on.
But Oakland, Oakland is going to be around. I think the Jaguars are going to be around for a while. The Colts,
Houston Texans is who you better watch out for.
Yeah, so there are some other teams that are
you remember
ready to take a shot at the Patriots.
We had that show about midway through, I don't know, it might have been late September, early October, and I think the question we threw out there was, what team, maybe it was after week 8 or so, what team in the second half of the season really has a chance to make a push? And my vote was the Houston Texans, and I think it was the next week that Deshaun blew his knee up.
Have you noticed that we have a little bit of a curse with this show?
It's not a little bit of a curse.
I mean, it's like every week, whatever we say, we'll make a strong point, a line in the sand on something.
But if you're a Gamecock basketball fan, we literally, these two dudes in this room, we got you a win last week. Yeah. Because both of us picking Florida, that was it. Yes. That was the end of that.
You're very welcome,
Both
Frank.
of us picked North Carolina to beat Clemson. Sorry.
What the heck, man?
Why would I bring that up?
What the heck? What is wrong with you?
Well, doctors are still
You just said we're not talking about that in hour 1. You just said that.
Well, clearly I was lying. I have notes written in the margins here.
Whatever.
Wait, how do you think I feel? You let them win. We'll talk about that later.
Anyway.
All right.
We're talking about Brady and Belichick and their greatness. Yes, I think that.
Well, I think your point.
think this is it. I think
your
this
point
is the last
about
one.
These two guys leaving, Patricia and McDaniels, is really probably the best point that you can make, because you're exactly right. When Weiss and Romeo Cornell left, I remember watching that Super Bowl, and I remember a lot of self-congratulatory stuff on the field, and the announcer saying, these guys have been to 3 Super Bowls in 5 years or whatever it was at that point. And you're right. People keep talking about the Patriots, but we forget that they did make it to 2.
They did.
They lost both of them to the Giants.
In between there, had an undefeated season.
Ish. Except for the only game that counted. And you're right. And I mean, at this point in Belichick's career and this point in Brady's career, I think that's a pretty big hit.
Yeah, I don't think that, like Max Kellerman, if you watch ESPN First Take, Kellerman has been preaching for a year or so now that he thinks, quote, Brady's going to fall off of a cliff.
Well, because most quarterbacks
do. Most quarterbacks are not Tom Brady. And
right.
I don't think that he's going to fall off a cliff like Kellerman says. I think it's going to be a gradual thing. Yeah. Maybe the arm gets a little weaker. Maybe the ball doesn't get out quite fast enough. And it's going to be something slow and gradual. It's not going to be like Brett Favre where he just all of a sudden is done.
And the Montana comparison is the only one to me that is salient, and that's because Montana is the only quarterback in the modern era who you can compare to Tom Brady. And Montana got traded to a sorry franchise. I mean, the Chiefs at that point in their history were not a good team.
Yeah.
And he still took them to the playoffs.
Took them to the AFC Championship game, didn't he?
Yeah. And so my point being is, Joe Montana really didn't fall off a cliff. His numbers fell off a cliff because he got traded to a team that just was not the San Francisco 49ers anymore.
I'm fascinated to see.
Brett Favre didn't fall off a cliff.
He got hurt and he was just done.
But I'm saying Brett Favre was taking subpar football teams. You tell me, when the New York Jets haven't been back to an AFC title game. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They went to those title games with Sanchez. That wasn't Favre.
Right, but they haven't been back to one since. I'm going to hang on to my point even though it's incorrect. I'm trying to think of a way to reword this.
Well, look, go back to what Favre, he left the Jets and he was just okay. He goes to Minnesota. He hooks up with Sidney Rice, and they are awesome. They go to the NFC Championship game before they were taken out, so to speak, by the Saints with all that Bounty Gate stuff. But they were beaten. And it was either the next year, I believe. It may have been 2 years later. He gets hurt, and Joe Webb, if I'm not mistaken, I think Joe Webb, of all people, was the one that took over for Favre in that Monday night game. May have been playing the Packers when the year Minnesota played outdoors in that University of Minnesota stadium. Favre was done, man. I mean, he was just. I mean, he was hurt. He was just. I mean, he really just all of a sudden just
he
stopped.
was banged up.
He was all of a sudden just stopped. I mean, he was done.
There's no question that at that age, if Brady gets hurt, that could be it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens with Brady and whether or not New England would move on from him. Like next year, say he takes a noticeable step backwards next year, but still wants to play. Would New England pull the trigger and move on?
And you also wonder how much tension that would cause between Belichick and Bob Kraft if the rumors are true, about who wanted to keep what quarterback. And now you had two viable backups. Now they're both gone.
Yeah.
I don't know, but either way, I think this is...
just a gut feeling. I think this is the last hurrah for him.
Yeah, and again, I think they'll be a good team.
Oh no, no, I don't think that they'll be 4-12 next year. As far as going to the Super Bowl, I think this is it.
And let's be honest. I mean, we talked about this last week. Jacksonville should have won that game. It wasn't just Tom Brady that beat Jacksonville. No. Jacksonville beat Jacksonville.
No. Well, I think Jacksonville should have won. You think Jacksonville should have won. How do you see Philadelphia winning? How do you see this thing playing out?
I'm going to let you start because I've got a feeling of how this is going to work.
All right. I see it's not going to shock me. I told you earlier, if we get to the fourth quarter and Philadelphia is winning just like Jacksonville was. It may not be 20-10. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Philadelphia is going to be able to get after Brady. I think their defense is going to be physical with the receivers. I just at coming down the stretch at the end of a ball game, I think if it's within striking distance, I think Brady's going to come back and win. Now, if Philadelphia wins, it's because they go out and they manhandle New England. Because I don't think Philadelphia is going to win a tight game. If Philadelphia wins, it's because they go out, they punch the Patriots right in the mouth, just like you've seen the Chiefs do sometimes. They punch them in the mouth and jump on them. But if it's a tight game, it's hard to bet against Brady, isn't it?
It is, but I'm going to do it.
Really?
I'm going to take the Eagles. I am. And I think they're going to win it in a tight game.
Okay.
And I think, look, when I look at the Eagles roster, and I see LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi, and these guys that are the kinds of players that give New England trouble, okay? Physical, skilled runners, multiple guys that can carry the football. Obviously, there's a question mark at quarterback. I mean, I've told you that I think Nick Foles is playing above his ability.
I agree.
But I don't think that stops until after this game. I think that's where they are right now.
So Nick Foles is going to be raising the Lombardi Trophy, you think?
I really do. I think. Look, let's call it like it is, man. We talked about this with Jacksonville, and we talked about this last year in the Super Bowl. New England lost those games. They were being outplayed. They are not a dominant football team. Their defense isn't dominant. Their offense isn't consistent. Mm-hmm. They can't really run the football. And eventually, Tom Brady is going to come up dry when everything comes down to him all the time. And I think the thing that's going to be different is I think that Doug Peterson's going to get consistent pressure on him. And I don't know if you've watched a lot of interviews with Doug Peterson. I mean, he's one of those guys both of us wish were our head coach.
I wish just about anybody was our head coach.
And I'm not quite that down on Jay Gruden, but Doug Peterson is not going to take his foot off the pedal if he finds something that's working. And I think Philadelphia's defense is going to give Brady fits.
All right, so give me a score.
I'm going to say 30-24. 30-24 Eagles.
30-24. I'm going with the Patriots. I think, like I said, I believe it'll be close. Maybe even with Philadelphia in the lead in the fourth quarter. But I'm going to take the Patriots 28-24.
Now, I will say this. I'm not in any way invested. I suppose now I'll pull for the Eagles so I can say, I was right. But I get a little something either way. I think, like I said last week, if the Eagles win, I think it's cool for the NFC East to say, guess what, guys? We're the only division in football where every team's won a Super Bowl. There is no other division that can claim that. The flip side of that, if the Patriots win, TanMan, I absolutely love how much everyone in here in the Southeast hates them. I love just watching the absolute fury break out on Facebook about this smirky, brown-haired, good-looking quarterback that you just can't beat. I just love it.
That every team in the league could have had 5 times.
Yeah, I love it. So either way, man, BG's going to have a good time Sunday night. I just hope I don't feel sick Monday morning and I have to call in. You know, I mean,
give me the Patriots and a late touchdown and the Eagles falling just short. Because that's what the Eagles do.
And you're right. That is what they do. But I'm feeling it, and maybe I'm just trying to keep it interesting.
I wouldn't care I just want to see a good game. It wouldn't bother me if the Eagles won, to be honest with you.
I think you're going to have a good game.
I think we will, too.
I think there's 2 well-coached teams. All right, let's move on to the Cowboys and the Redskins. That is...
We haven't had a Cowboys-Redskins portion of the show.
Not since the season ended.
For a few weeks now.
Because our teams did not make the playoffs. So, obviously, we're going to react to the Alex Smith trade here in a minute. But, you know, the rumors about Dez Bryant are sort of starting to heat up a little bit. And they do every year.
They do.
I've got my take on this, but, TanMan, it's your team. Could, or maybe more appropriately, should your Cowboys unload Dez Bryant on somebody else and try to get something for him?
In my opinion, that's a complicated question. That's not a simple answer.
Okay.
Clearly, Dez Bryant is making number 1 receiver money. He's making 85 catches for 1,200 yards and 11 touchdown money. Unfortunately, we're getting 65 catches for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns from him.
How many games did he start this year? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I don't know.
What would you say he's missing 5 games a season?
It seems like he misses a few.
5 to 6 every season.
Would I trade him now? No. Or more important, would I cut him now? No. Because I think you give it another year. You had Romo come out on I believe it was a Colin Cowherd show the other day, and he said a lot of times he would go off script and he would get the ball to Dez Bryant regardless of where the play says the ball should go, just because he wanted to get Bryant involved.
Right.
He wanted, I think he said, he called it his positive energy.
In other words, he wanted to keep him happy.
He wanted to keep him happy.
Yeah.
When you look, Romo was a veteran quarterback.
Sure.
Veteran quarterbacks in the NFL have some leeway when it comes to that stuff. Now, Dak's first year, he had Tony Romo over his shoulder the whole, are they going to go back to Romo kind of thing going on?
Right.
So it wasn't really his team. This year, it is his team, but you've got the Ezekiel Elliott stuff hanging over this offense. And then you had the offensive line.
So you're saying he really hasn't
had a clean year.
Yeah.
Now, next year, hopefully you keep everybody healthy, fingers crossed. Hopefully Zeke is cleared his mind and gotten to a good place. And it's his 3rd year, the offense is his, and it's ready to go. And then then you see what it is. If this is, to me, if this is what Dez Bryant is now, and maybe Dak is just not the quarterback for him, I don't know.
Right.
But I would give it another year. And next year, if everything runs smooth and he's still only giving you 60 catches for 800 yards, well, it might be time to move on.
I think my question would be, right now, what do you realistically think you could get for him in terms of, say, draft picks?
Well,
is he a 2nd round pick? Is he?
I don't know that you would get that, because you look in the NFL.
We both agree you're not going to get a 1st round pick for him.
No. Okay. But you really don't get that kind of value, for these guys. And Dez is not like a 2nd year guy. I mean, he's been in the league 7 years.
Right.
I mean, he's got a little bit of wear on the tires.
Sure.
I mean, but no, for what you would get for him right now, I wouldn't do it. To me, it wouldn't be worth it, especially considering the fact that you don't have anybody else in that receiving corps that's anywhere close to being as good as he is. I mean,
that's the thing. I mean, there is no
there is no replacement.
There's no. And it's funny because I'm not sure that you could. I think you could make a case for the Cowboys or the Redskins having the worst wide receiving corps in the NFL. I mean, I don't know. I think Dez is the only thing that maybe makes you finish right above us.
I don't think we've got a bad receiver. I don't think Terrence Williams is the guy that we thought he would be a few years ago. But, I mean, look, you have Cole Beasley. When it comes time for Beasley to pony up,
with Cole Beasley, man, you're making my point for me.
Cole Beasley's better than any receiver y'all have. We looked it up. We did the numbers.
That's fine. When he is your linchpin for saying you're not a bad wide receiving core, you're a bad wide receiving core.
You're a bad wide receiver. Cole
I
Beasley
just said we're the worst in the league,
Cole
man.
Beasley is fine.
No,
man.
he's not.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You don't say this stuff off the air, man. You're not a Cole Beasley fan.
I love Cole Beasley.
You are so full of it.
I love Cole Beasley. But no, to me, it would be short-sighted. You know, and on top of that, you have a young quarterback, and you're going to take his best weapon away from him.
I get all that. Here's my question, though. Like, at what point this starts to feel a little like the Steve Smith situation in Carolina 10 years ago?
All right.
Well, yeah, and I mean, do you try to get something for him while you can, or do you wait until,
As long to put it like this, as long as what he's doing is not a detriment.
What's his contract? Do we know that?
He just signed an extension a few years ago.
Yeah,
so he's got another 3 or 4 years.
I think you have to bring him back because I think you're going to give up a lot just to get rid of that contract.
You will. You're going to have to. There's going to be some dead money on the book.
People are not going to like that.
As long as what he's doing and his antics, as long as it's not detrimental to Dak Prescott's development, you keep him. If it starts being a problem, and if it comes down to keeping Dez happy or developing Dak Prescott, Dez has got to go.
Well, Dez has dropped off the radar, though, when it comes out to off-field or on-field drama to me. I mean, he's not even the most controversial receiver in his own in his own division. Odell's got that.
I was like, yeah, who are you talking about?
No,
yeah.
Well, come on, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Dak is going to be a good quarterback either way. To me, Dez is the kind of guy that really should be benefiting more from Dak's ability to roll out of the pocket and make things happen. Because Dez has got the wherewithal to come back and find the zone coverage openings and that kind of thing.
He's not a great route runner, and he drops balls.
Right.
I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
What are you supposed to do? Like I said, as long as he's not, hindering the progress of Dak, you keep him. If it starts being a problem, you move on. So. Speaking of moving on, guys, we've talked about it for months and months and months now, basically since the beginning of our show.
Oh, yeah. All the way back.
From the very start, the drama in D.C. with your boy, Kirk Cousins.
Not my boy anymore.
I don't know who finally signed off on it, what was happening behind closed doors, but to me it looks like the Washington Redskins said, you know what, I'm out.
Yes,
and
I think a lot of
they pulled the trigger on a big time deal.
What I've seen, the only complaining I've seen is that people don't like that they got rid of Kendall Fuller. Now, let me just say this, and I think you're going to agree with me. Kendall Fuller may be a good cornerback. He may end up being a starting cornerback in the NFL. He was our nickelback. I'm not a Bashard Breeland fan. I would have tried to get rid of him, and they probably did, but nobody wanted him. Okay, here's my take, though. 10 years from now, when we go back and look at this trade, nobody's going to be talking about Kendall Fuller.
No.
That's not what this trade's about.
The trade was, we're going to evaluate this based on how well Alex Smith does.
All right, so let me just read you some stats here. This is last season's stats. I'm comparing quarterbacks. I'm not going to tell you which one's which.
Okay.
One of these two quarterbacks, and I'm speaking of Smith and Cousins now, one of these quarterbacks threw for 4,092 yards last season.
Okay.
The other one threw for 4,093 yards last season.
All right.
You want to guess which one's which?
6-1. Give me Alex Smith for the yard.
Cousins threw for one more yard than Alex Smith last year. All right. One of these quarterbacks threw for 64% completion percentage. The other one threw a 67.5% completion.
I'll take Alex Smith on a completion percentage.
You are correct. One of them threw 27 touchdown passes. The other one threw 26.
Give me Kurt with a touchdown.
You're exactly right. One of them was sacked 41 times. The other was sacked 35 times.
Give me Alex Smith for the fewer sacks.
You're correct. Now, here's where it gets really fun, TanMan. So your average listener may be thinking, well, these dudes are the same guy.
Yeah.
Well, I will make this argument. Kirk Cousins is going to make a heck of a lot more money than Alex Smith this next year. Whoever ends up with him is going to write him the biggest check in the history of the NFL.
Good luck to you.
Okay, here's where it gets fun. So,
all right,
we're going to pay less for the same stats, but it gets better, man. One of these quarterbacks, while being sacked that many times, fumbled the ball 13 times last season. Ooh. The other one fumbled twice.
Ooh. Give me Alex Smith fumbling twice.
That's exactly right. We just
unloaded
a lot
of fumbles, man.
For fewer and it gets more fun, man. One of these quarterbacks threw 13 interceptions last season. The other one threw 5.
Yeah, no, Smith's throwing fewer kicks.
So you tell me why I'm sitting over here smiling like a Cheshire cat. And do I think Alex Smith is going to win a Super Bowl in Washington? No. Do I think Alex Smith will start for 3 seasons? That's probably the over-under is 3. Maybe 2. But here's the thing. That lets Washington draft a quarterback. It lets us actually spend some money on something other than a quarterback and bring somebody along. Because what you just did is you kept Kirk Cousins, but you got rid of his interceptions and you
his fumbles.
And you cut his pay.
I think what this does is this puts Washington in a position now where, one, clearly they don't have to overpay and break the bank and reset the quarterback market with Kirk Cousins.
If you think they should have had to keep Kirk Cousins, nobody can argue they were going to pay him what he was worth. You couldn't.
No, they weren't going to pay him
$8 or $9 million a year more than he was worth.
But this keeps you out of getting into that or getting into some sort of bidding war with another team. But to me, the most important thing it does is it takes you at number 13 where you're not reaching for a quarterback. Because I don't think, you see a lot of these mock drafts now, and Baker Mayfield is a popular name.
Right.
I think when Baker Mayfield goes to the combine and he gets in these team interviews, he's going to blow these teams away. And I think Mayfield's going to shoot up the board. He's not going to be there at 13. So it keeps you from, one, maybe fighting the urge to reach for a quarterback like Mason Rudolph or something like that. So you can stay right there. You can draft a position of need or the best player available, and you can address that quarterback position in the second round or the third round, and maybe you get Rudolph in the middle of the second round unless somebody gets an itchy trigger finger to trade back up in. But you can put him behind Alex Smith. Alex Smith's not going to kill you. He's not going to play so poorly that everybody in the stands is clamoring for Joe Smith or whoever it is that is the new hot backup. And whoever you draft and whoever you can sit him back there and groom him behind a guy who's been around the league now for a decade or so, and who's not going to be a bad teammate. He's going to help the next guy along, just like he did in Kansas City with Mahomes.
I don't even think it's an argument, man. I mean, and we talked about this earlier today. People act like Kirk Cousins has 10 years left in him, man. He's 29 years old. Alex Smith is 33. Okay, so there is a difference there, but it's not a huge difference. Neither one of them was going to be your long-term starting quarterback. Like I said, their stats are almost identical, except for the fact that Cousins is a turnover machine.
He is a turnover machine.
Especially in the red zone. How many more wins do the Redskins have in the past 2 seasons if they've only thrown 2 picks all season?
1.
I mean, oh, come on.
1.
I will give you a paper cut live on the air.
1. They have 1 more win.
You're ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
You don't work on this floor.
Okay. So, I think...
so you think the Redskins won the deal?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how big of a deal Kendall Fuller is, but I think they got rid of Kirk Cousins, and it was about to become a huge distraction for this team. I mean, it already was.
Well, I would say about to become. I think it already was.
It was going to go into the stratosphere if this started moving on into a third season of this mess, and the fan base was done with it.
I think that you're going to regret having it's going to kind of be a stick in the craw that you had to get rid of Fuller. I think Kansas City feels like they won the deal because I don't believe that they were going to trot Alex Smith back out there again next year. I think they were going to move on.
No, I agree with you.
They were ready to play Pat Mahomes by the time the thing was over.
I mean,
but now you get Fuller, who he had a. You're a Redskins fan. It's not a secret to you. He had a rough rookie season, but he played well this year.
He did.
And so now, I'm like you. I think they should have put him opposite of Josh Norman and let him play the other side. But Kansas City is going to do that now. They've been searching for a guy to play on that other side from Peters, or was it Peters?
I'm not sure.
I think it did. Anyway, the other cornerback that they have, they're going to put him on the other side. I think they're going to wind up, as long as Mahomes doesn't stink, Kansas City's going to come out looking like, because they're going to. But they're going to get that defense.
This trade isn't going to make them look bad one way or the other. Whatever happens to Pat Mahomes, because they were going to trade him to somebody.
Alex Smith wasn't coming back.
They weren't going to re-sign him, and they weren't going to make him a second-string quarterback. That wasn't going to happen.
No,
he's had too much success to sit on the bench. I'm good with it. I don't think we really. I don't know that we take a huge step forward, but I think it lets us. Just the lack of turnovers, man. I think that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah,
I think this year's Redskins team, with those stats and Alex Smith at quarterback, is probably a 10-6 football team. I think that's probably worth 3 wins. I can remember multiple games we were winning in the fourth quarter when Cousins started throwing picks, and some of them were pick sixes.
Yeah,
and those throws mattered. They cost us games. I mean, I'm talking like you can point to that play and say that play. Everybody has those plays in a football game. But Cousins just always seemed, if there was a difference-making play, he always came out on the wrong end of it.
How do you think it feels to be somebody out there? Does he not, in a private, quiet moment where it's just him, does he not sit in a room and go, what the heck do I have to do?
Yeah.
To stay? It's like he plays well.
From the day he was drafted.
From the day he was drafted, he got off to a rough start in San Francisco, and that was a bad team. But once that ship finally set, and they got things going out there. They were in it. He took them to an NFC Championship game, and then they get rid of him. He goes to the Chiefs. They go to the playoffs a few times. Should have been playing. Should have beaten Tennessee, obviously. So he should have been one of the last 4 teams playing in the AFC. They get rid of him. I mean, what does Alex Smith feel like he has to do? I mean. How is Alex Smith getting remembered when it's all said and done?
I mean, what did I say on the air? I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, I said he was probably the free agent guy of all the guys out there that I would probably want, because I thought he's done the most consistent proof, that he can contribute at this level. He's a B+ quarterback, man. He's, and I would say that Kirk Cousins is a B- quarterback, and that's the difference.
What's the difference in salary? What's because I saw
I don't even know.
I saw they agreed to an extension, but it could be finalized until the new league year.
Well,
April
we don't
1st,
know the difference in salary yet, because Kirk Cousins.
I think we know what the Kirk's
he's going to get $37 million.
He's going to get 30 something. They were saying today that he's going to top $100 million in the first 3 years.
I mean, if I had to just guess off the top of my head, I would say it might be $10 million a year. I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know what Alex Smith makes right now, and I don't know what his extension will look like. But
it's like when I told you to change internet companies. You'll get faster speeds for less money. Well, I mean, I'm not mentioning company names here, but now if you're interested in sponsoring
the show,
we are all ears. I don't care if you have slow internet. I will lie for you.
We're live from the HughesNet studios.
HughesNet Gen 3. That's
Hey, we got a couple minutes left here in hour 1. You want to keep going, or you want to head on over to hour 2 with the?
Well, I mean, I guess the big thing this week will be how good the commercials are. Are you a big Super Bowl commercial fan? I am not.
No.
I think there was a time when they were glorious, and I think that time was 15 years ago. It's been a long time since I've seen a Super Bowl commercial that really caught my eye.
I remember as a kid there being some funny commercials. I don't know why. Like the Frogs got real popular.
The Frogs, the What's Up, those guys. The Bud Bowl. Do you remember the Bud Bowl?
I remember the Bud
models
Bowl.
Playing each other.
I remember that. I honestly can't remember. When the Super Bowl is over, I honestly can't remember a commercial most years. Not one.
Do you get a weird feeling while you're watching the Super Bowl? I always feel like these people who don't belong are intruding on my sport. Like it's like if when you were a kid and some strange kid came over with a buddy of yours and he's playing with your toys and you're like, hey,
I don't really know you,
those
man.
are my toys. And I'm like, why are all these people that don't like football all up in my football? I mean, it doesn't even feel like a football game sometimes. I'm a big NFC, AFC championship weekend guy. I'm a even bigger second round of the playoff guy. I love that week. But Super Bowl, I mean, I'll watch it.
Man, we need to start a GoFundMe page to raise money to buy a Super Bowl commercial for the border war. For this show, Super Bowl Sunday, it pops up, BG in the TanMan's picture. What do you think? Good idea?
I'm all for marketing ourselves in any way, shape, or form. And by the way, listeners, some of that's on you guys. Start telling people that this show is better than the other crap they're listening to. You know it is. We know it is. TanMan, what are we doing in hour number 2?
Hour number 2, we are going to take a look at some round bouncing ball action, a big trade
as quickly as possible, right? You want to move right on from basketball.
A big trade in the NBA. We will not be talking about anything in college basketball. Nothing has happened worth mentioning. But we'll also talk about Vince McMahon in the XFL a little bit. I think
a topic I find interesting.
I think that's an interesting discussion there. A lot of stuff. So that's it. Hour number 1 in the books. Tune in for hour number 2 to hear all of that interesting talk of sport and more.